Do people know that Peds are still in sports? Although he blamed it on some weight loss drug. They care about you being jacked, but they don't care about you being fucking high as a kite, I guess. They're shooting the players up in the middle of a game. You messaged me about Tren. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Well, just stick to your TRT, bro. The time for you is not now. This Dr. Lane Norton video, he's on the right track, but there are a couple of additions I think I can make to kind of bring it all home to somebody. You just can't expect this thing to just be magic and work. It doesn't end well unless it ends. You can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
Just a motherfucking jump. Just go. Let's fucking go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy and the other fucking guy in the room on this beautiful Saturday in Arizona.
Sunday.
Huh?
Sunday.
I said Saturday, didn't I?
Yeah.
Fuck. Sunday. You know what? This whole weekend kind of messed me up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's Chase. Chase, hey,
hello.
Buddy. So, yeah, it messed me because yesterday felt like Sunday. So I should say it just so felt like, you know, going to the home opener for the Phoenix Mercury. It just, you know, they play quite a few games on Sunday, and it just felt like Sunday.
No, I feel you.
But we had a good time. First, trip as a season ticket holder, and we liked it. It was good. We had a good time. We're having a good time there. And it was a great game. The girls played great. Better than I expected. Better than their one preseason game that we saw. They played like a team. And we got some ballers on that team now. So they got a couple new players. One with a lot of experience, and you know, one of the top players in the league. That's Sabali, and that I want the ball in that girl's hands. That's the only thing I disagree with the coach about. Like sometimes he'll have one of the little guards or Thomas, who's also a good player, new player for us, that he'll have bring the ball up the court. But yeah, Sabali's more like some of the really good, like a Joker. I mean, the Joker could bring the ball up and run the offense. You know what I mean? For a big guy, you never used to see that shit, dude. Big guys didn't run the fucking offense.
You sat under the hoop and waited for the rebounds.
That's it. Yeah. And she can do it all. The one thing I will say is, and it's a lot like the NBA. When I started thinking about it, I was like, well, you know what? The NBA is kind of a lot like this too. But the NBA does have some players that can shoot like a mid-range shot, you know, like a 10, 15-foot jumper that's 2 points. Yeah, they do and can make it consistently, little fade. The WNBA, I do not see that very often at all. It's either driving to the hoop or a three-pointer. There is no mid-range shot. That goes in anyways, you know, but still running the offense, moving. They did an excellent job. So we were very psyched that this team looks like they might be better than people predicted. And all the while, I was pretty hyped up for the game because earlier yesterday, of course, I watched and as a part of our season tickets, we get the WNBA ticket to be able to see any game we want.
Like on TV?
On TV. Okay. Yeah, we get that as just like a freebie. So that's cool because I probably wouldn't have paid for it. You know what I mean? But I'll take it as a freebie. But I record all the Indiana Fever. I have my YouTube TV set up, so I record all the Indiana Fever games. But I did get to watch that game because it was earlier than what our game was yesterday, and absolutely loved it. I mean, they're pretty smart at getting smart at scheduling too. So, I mean, what a way to kick the season off between the two young rivals, you know, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And it lived up to the hype, although the Chicago got blown out. And it all happened on this play right here. This is from here on. I think they took off from here, and then the sky never got closer than 18 points after this play. Just this is what it's all about. Yeah, we'll play the Home Depot ad, right? You got to use mine, so we like.
It's on ESPN, not YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have a thing for YouTube or for ESPN. I don't pay extra for their shit.
Too strong on a three. And look out, Caitlin Clark pushes Angel Reese, and Angel Reese gets right up into Caitlin Clark. Afterwards has something to say as Clark walks away. We know there are always increased eyeballs, energy, and attention around the matchups between Reese and Clark, and Angel Reese is still going after Caitlin Clark in the aftermath.
Everyone in the arena had to know this foul was coming. As soon as you saw Angel Reese wide open, you knew that Caitlin Clark was going to come in and take that foul.
I thought it was excellent. Yeah, just hold it here. We'll do that other one after this. But I thought it was an excellent foul. It was a perfect foul. It's exactly what you want to do. You do want to hack somebody, like that, and not let them get the ball off. I hate when they foul, even in the NBA, when they foul somebody under the rim and you let them get the shot off and make the shot, and then it's, they're on the line going for and one, which is just shit. And that was perfect. She went after the ball. She just didn't hack her personally, and I don't think it could be done any better. Now, they ended up upgrading it to flagrant. Just, I think, so that it wouldn't. And then there was technical fouls called on for the other shit going on, the talking and stuff, that Reese got a technical and so did Boston. Boston didn't even realize she got a technical called on her till after the game. Right? She did. That was news to her. But this was the response after the game, which I thought was pretty good, too.
Perspective. Questions for players? Hey, Joe, can you take us through the flagrant foul from your perspective? Just what you saw in that play, how you interpreted what happened.
Basketball play, refs got it right. Move on.
Basketball play, refs got it right.
Short
Move
and
on. Dude, I think that rivalry is great, so I love the whole thing. I love the fact that Caitlin Clark is, 40 games into her career, just 40 some games into her career, and the fastest to 3 triple doubles. So she had 2 triple doubles last year, and then right away in her first game this year, showing that, look, I'm not a rookie anymore. I can ball. It took her about half of the season last year to kind of find her way and kind of make good with the players and the passing and everything that she does. They're going to be the thing to watch. I mean, and she's just getting so much attention everywhere, just so much attention. It's good for the league. It's good for her. It's just really awesome to see. And banging those 3-pointers from way the fuck out, man. I mean, it's beyond the NBA 3-pointer. It's out there. The logo 3 or whatever they want to call it. That's just, it's fun to see. And it was fun to watch her. So something gives people something to talk about. We had a really good time with it. So all good. So you're listening to the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. I'm the fucking guy that needs you to hit that subscribe button. Share it with a friend. Just do me that one favor. Like, cool too. But the shares are a big deal, and the subscribe. We're going to bring you more of the stuff you haven't asked for. God bless. Have a great week. Do people know that Peds are still in sports? Is that a thing? Do people know?
I feel like people know, but it's just like a lot more acceptable nowadays. Like maybe not to the league itself or the association, but within people, I don't think, or at least the conversations I've had with people, people would not mind allowing athletes to use performance enhancers because that would give people an overall, like I know there's a health risk and stuff like that to it, but for the most part, when you're watching athletes be athletes. You would want them to be at their prime as long as they want, or
Yeah,
as long as they
could.
could. So
Mhm.
supplements and stuff like that. And from, like I said, the conversations I've had, a
Yeah.
lot of people find them a lot more acceptable.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think like in baseball, because it just was announced that Phillies reliever Jose Alvarado was suspended for 80 games for taking this. Here you go. Well, not actually this
Yeah.
brand, I'm not saying, but testosterone.
Yeah.
And this is what many of us take for TRT. It's what a doctor would prescribe for TRT, but TRT is not allowed in Major League Baseball. Or, we also take higher doses than a TRT dose for more performance enhancing. I wouldn't necessarily say TRT is enhancing, other than it is enhancing in the way to that individual because their own levels are so low that they are getting a benefit out of it by being able to get their levels at the high end of the normal range, say. So, but then going beyond that, I do that occasionally, where I'll do a cycle and then I drop back to my TRT dose. But this is what he was taking. And usually we've found lately that a lot of these things, either they won't tell us what it is, or if they do tell us, it's something that's necessarily, I don't want to say a big deal, but it's maybe been some of the SARMs or some of these other things that do work. Maybe they're not taking them in the most optimal way, but it will at least give them some benefit. There is a benefit to it. Now, it doesn't make you hit the ball more often? I don't know if it can make you swing the bat faster. To me, that's all wrist, but power for sure. And just being able to take the grind of a season and maintain your body during the season. This kind of stuff would be, like you were saying, to keep people at their best, even not cycle doses would be beneficial if they were allowed to do that, just to get through the grind, because it is a grind, and to figure out that these guys are doing this at this level. And I know what it takes to do what I do at 57 years old, and I'm not doing anything like this. I'm just talking about the training side. Man, I look great for 57 fucking years old, but damn, if I don't feel it some too. That's just kind of the way it is. But 80 games for this, although he blamed it on some weight loss drug, apparently. And I guess the Phillies believed him, that he didn't really know what he was saying. Like, dude, that's not a thing. I don't know what kind of weight loss thing he could have been thinking he was doing that includes testosterone cypionate. It's just, they're not done the same way as that. It just really weird. So, I don't know. So he tested positive a while ago, tested negative in 2 subsequent tests. Then that might mean that he didn't actually use this. Cypionate's going to stay in your system longer. So he might have been using test propionate, which is not going to stay in your system as long. So for people to understand, when you hear the words, testosterone is testosterone. So what's the difference between testosterone, propionate, and nethate, and cypionate? Those are called esters, and the esters are control how it's released into your system. So, how long it's going to stay in the system, and the propionate is going to get out faster. So, like if somebody wants to do it for a short period of time, and hopefully get it out of their system better or quicker, to have to try to get around this stuff. That's it. Now, he's a pretty big boy. And I believe they test them in the off season too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think they test them as much in the off season. However, if you were going to do something like this, in my opinion, the best way to get around the rules, or try to anyways, would be to do it in the off season and then be using, some peptides or something that's going to be harder to detect to maintain the muscle during the season.
Gotcha.
That would be my view of it. Yeah. And I'd love to know, because there are people that get around this, and what strategies they use to be able to do that. Now, I did want to contrast this because this was just the second suspension of the year. And I would actually think that it would be much higher. Because the one thing I will say is you don't have the guys looking
massive anymore.
The massive guys, like they really used to. But that doesn't mean that people aren't using, and I think people need to understand that looking like a bodybuilder type athlete is not all that these kinds of drugs can do. They can do lots of other things, like I said, for purposes of endurance and things like that. And again, for somebody playing on a regular basis and somebody trying to stay, fit on the more lean side, Winstrol is a great one. It's a great oral for that kind of stuff. Now, that stuff will show up on tests for sure. It will. But, if you look at whoever would test positive for something like that, you're not going to necessarily, he might not look like somebody that you think of as taking steroids, because instantly that's what people associate right now. They always associate steroids with big. And, I'm decent size, but people go like, you take steroids and that's all the bigger you are. Man, I'm 7 years old, motherfucker. How big you think I should be? Or everybody's goal is different, isn't to be that big. Yeah. I want to have some size, but I'm not looking to have to walk through a door sideways, for God's sakes. That's not a thing for me anymore. But, obviously here's where I want more size. I'm working on the legs. And man, so speaking of legs, I went to the doctor again, I was referred to a different doctor to talk about potentially a different surgical procedure that was less invasive, called 10X, TNEX is what it's called if you want to look it up. And he recommended against it. And what he recommended is that even if that it looks like it's healing, but I'm still having issues, that it's not fully healed yet. And then he's telling me it could take over 2 years. I'm like, what the fuck? So I actually kind of feel, I hate to say this, but I almost feel like I'd have been better off if the thing would have just been not a partial tear, but a full tear, and they just had to go in and reattach it. And I don't think it would take me 2 years to recover.
Gotcha.
Because now I can still use it, but I'm just aggravating the fuck out of it.
Like,
you know what I mean?
You're on,
but I'm not doing heavy things or things like that anywhere close to what I was doing. And then I don't know if you can find it. I think what we're going to do is called PRP. And it's some type of where they take, they take your own blood. There you go. Small amount of blood is drawn from the patient's arm, and then the blood is placed in a centrifuge. The machine spins at high speed. They get the platelets out, separated components like red and white blood cells, and then they do an injection. So that's what I'm going to be scheduled for here. They haven't called me for that. We just went and seen them. So sometime probably this coming week they'll schedule that. So that's what we're going through. It's supposed to help heal faster. And I'm like, I'm willing to try it. Why not? This seems like very low risk and gives you a chance to maybe recover faster. Because I was telling the doc, like, look, doc, I ain't like these other fucking lazy motherfucking 57-year-olds. I'm not, even though I watch sports, that doesn't mean I'm on the couch. That's not who I am. We are out and about and we are doing shit. And I want to continue to do shit. And I'm being stopped from doing some shit is what I feel like. And, because I do think about that. like we've said, we've wanted to get into pickleball and stuff. And I kind of feel like I don't trust my knee. You know, I've walked on it enough and stuff like I know and feel twinges here and there. I know. You want to know what the funniest part was? I probably should not say this on a podcast. This is so not, I should not do it. But of course, that's all the reason I will do it. So the doctor, he's got me laying down and he's, you know, going over my knee and talking to me and what, you know, how they like,
Yeah.
they wiggle
out
it
your
and
knee,
shit.
yeah,
I guess,
yeah.
I don't know. And I said, look, dude, I know it ain't fixed. Like it's been 10 months and, you know, when I'm having sex, it hurts. My knee hurts. So yeah, I actually told him, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be kind of blunt, just tell you, like having sex and well, it doesn't hurt. I said, well, it doesn't hurt until I'm done because of the adrenaline. But and Dawn's sitting right there and she's laughing. She don't care that I said it, but like, look, this should not be a thing. 10 months later, I'm just feeling like, and he goes, no, actually, it is a thing that it doesn't heal as fast. And that's even with these, you know, I've been using the peptides and I'm a big believer in the peptides and I've had so much success with them in other areas. This is just different. It's still worth a try. I'm still going to keep injecting it. He didn't tell me not to. So I maybe, you know, I go in spurts injecting it, but yeah, I'm going to keep doing the peptides with it too and do this and just keep trying to, I guess, rehab it on my own. I guess that's kind of what he said. It's all I can do. It just is a time thing. It's just you're old, motherfucker. That's damn. I don't want to believe it. It's a hard thing to believe, but it is the truth. So yeah, that's what's going on. That's what's going on with me. There was another player. Let's go to the other player because I wanted to kind of phrase this. So there was somebody else also that has been banned for 80 games because of testing positive. And what he tested positive was for this. This is HCG. HCG is a female hormone. HCG comes in a powder. And typically, now I don't know, right, okay, you can leave it right here. It's for several things, okay? But it is a fertility drug. So many times if a young guy does a cycle, after a cycle, you know, he wants to go back to his natural testosterone levels. His balls have been shut on. We need to get his balls working again and generating testosterone. This is what you would use. Now, a lot of people will use and you know, anti-estrogen or a blocker, something like that. Look, that's not the best protocol. The best protocol is something like this that's going to just get things working again. And if someone, you know, maybe was looking to conceive and having some difficulties, this is something that can help for that too. I also have had guys, I've said it too, like just, you know, guys on testosterone. It's not that their sex drive isn't good. Their sex drive is good. Everything's good, except their experience at the end is a little weak, let's say. You know, there's not that much coming out. This can have an effect on that as well. So, but it's used, and I've used this example before. They talk about Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez was not, and he did use testosterone, but he didn't get busted by being tested for testosterone. He got busted for this, which they say it's used as a masking agent, but it's really not as much a masking agent as it is, honestly, getting your own natural, something you would do after a cycle to get your own production back up.
Gotcha.
You're doing it afterwards. So, and they do say that at the end in the article there, but you can't always count on these articles or whoever the journalist is to understand how this shit works. You know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to make it clear. What did he say? Go down a little bit further. because anyone who knows me knows he plays AMD. He doesn't see, and he's a guy. If you look at him, you would say he doesn't look like somebody that would be on some type of performance enhancement, because he's not a big dude. You don't really see that. But again, having a higher level of testosterone can just help your overall well-being. But I was trying to see if he said something about the way that he took it, or he's taking something else for some other reason, and blame that. He doesn't really give.
No, it looks
give
like
a
he just
reason.
apologizes and that's it.
Yeah. But that's what it would typically be for. And, I think there are ways if someone, I think they can go through the league. Let's say if it was a guy, say in his late 20s, that was having a hard time conceiving a child, and the doctor was recommending this, I think they can get approval for that kind of thing.
Like a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe so.
But
if you do it and don't get an approval, well, then you can't say afterwards, oh, I was doing it for this reason and I didn't know. Because the doctors, because it also can be used. Now, I don't recommend it for this, but there are clinics that will use this or enclomiphene and use these as a way to increase somebody's natural production to get it higher instead of actually injecting the testosterone.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's just the long-term effectiveness doesn't seem to be the best way for people who are not athletes. Just regular guys that are low T, could do this to boost their testosterone levels. But that's not the protocol that I really recommend. But that is something that, can be true too. So that a doctor would know that, you would think. Even if they're not good at maybe treating the low T, these are kind of some basics that
Gotcha. Everyone should kind of know.
Kind of should know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would have to know, if you're a doctor, that you need to be careful what you prescribe a pro athlete.
Gotcha.
But you know what? It just crossed my mind as I'm saying that to you. It's weird. If you're on the job, if you're a union construction worker, doing a construction job, do you think they care? They test people. Do you think they care if you're on testosterone? Fuck no. It might make you better at your job. Right?
Yeah.
What do they care about? Cocaine. Yeah. No, they do. They test it. They care about cocaine, Percocet.
I guess in unions,
Yeah, in unions. They're going to test them.
A lot of construction
Yeah, I
people
know. They do a lot of shit, dude. No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
We're not in disagreement,
We're
brother.
talking about unions, okay.
But like when I was, in the union, it wasn't the union testing me, it was the employer.
Gotcha.
And they could test us at any time.
Gotcha.
And, there was a time when I don't know if I had a surgery or had something, and I had some Percocet, and I had, got tested, and it showed up. I had to show them the script, and I did, and it was all okay. There was no issue, because it was all done the way it was supposed to be done. But if you're taking that and you don't have a script for it, and you don't have any issues, and you're just taking it to get stoned or high or, get fucked up or something like that, yeah, they care about that on a job, because you're working with tools and shit, and you're at heights, and you could be dangerous. They don't care if you're jacked, though. But think about it. In sports, it's the exact opposite. They care about you being jacked, but they don't care about you being fucking high as a kite, I guess. They don't. I mean, I guess cocaine would be a testosterone booster, but I don't think that, like on the Percocet side or, on injuries. I mean, look they're shooting the players up in the middle of a game, for pain issues and stuff to deal with shit. That's okay. We're going to shoot him up, numb him up so he doesn't feel it, get his ass back out there. But something that might help him maintain his body so that happens less, that's a bad thing. It's just the opposite. It's just crazy. So, yeah, that was the difference. And I just wanted to share that, since that's things we do talk about here on the show. That's kind of my alley is performance enhancing drugs, TRT. And as always, I recommend that people get tested. First thing, when somebody messages me new, first thing I ask, do you have lab results, recent lab results, or do you have it scheduled to get lab results? Because having a baseline is going to be what's important, and knowing where you're at now, so that when I do recommend a protocol, we're going to be able to implement that protocol, get blood work down the road, 8 to 10 weeks, and then see what the difference has been. And there should be a difference both on paper, by the testing, and there should be a difference in how you feel, because how you feel matters too. Both things matter. So I'm not going to say one matters more than the other, but they both absolutely do matter and should be considered. You shouldn't just go on how somebody feels and not know what the numbers are. That kind of goes hand in hand. At least for me, it does. So I had some guys oh my God, sometimes people. So I have a guy that's for a little while, he's on TRT right now, and he's put on some weight. I think he started around 155 pounds maybe.
Okay.
And it's been over a year or so, and he's up around 180. Ultimately, he's been thin all his life, would like to get a little bit heavier. And I totally get that. And so he asked me about Tren. That, I immediately shake my head immediately when I get people doing that. So this is funny. I just have to go through this with you. So I had recommended, because he wanted more size, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that's not what he really wants for the summer. But here's what he's he messaged me about the trend, and I was like, man, why in the world do you want to use the strongest steroid? What you're doing now, is a joke compared to what, he's doing TRT and Anavar. Well, that's not going to give him a lot of gain that there. It's not that that's not a good combination. That's just not going to give him the result that he's looking for. But using the strongest steroid, what you're doing now is a joke. I didn't recommend that you do it like that. Like, if you want, the first step should be, if you've never done anything before and you're at low T and you were doing low T, and then later on you decide you want to do a little bit more because you're putting work in the gym and you want some other benefits, that's fine, because people are going to make their own choices about that kind of stuff. But your first step is increasing the test from 250 to 400 to 500 milligrams a week, split into 2 or more doses. And I just said, I didn't recommend that. You have no business doing Tren. You should be asking me and doing better cycles, period. Then, maybe down the line sometime you might consider, something like that. But you don't go to the strongest thing when you can get really good results with something that's not potentially as harsh. And I hate to say it that way, but not potentially as harsh, and get results. You got to start out with just flat out basic cycles. And people who haven't ever used before, they can do that. They don't need to add a bunch of other things in. Just increasing the testosterone alone. So I said, look, what's the goal? I'm up from 155 pounds to 180. Good muscle definition. And people send me pictures too. But still smaller stature. I'd like to work towards 205. Working out 6 days a week. Good intensity. Diet needs dialed in, because he already knows me. He knows at some point I'm going to be talking about diet, because it doesn't matter whether you're cutting or whether you're adding mass. It's all about diet. Diet, diet, diet. Okay? I've always been one of the smallest guys in the room. I want to walk in and turn heads, I get it. Wants to have some confidence, wants to have that athletic look, And a guy doing this, I don't know why people shit on it. It's no different than a chick getting boobs. They want the boobs to make them look maybe more symmetrical. maybe their, legs and everything else kind of goes together, but their boobs are on the small side. And, maybe if there was just stuck out, they'd feel more symmetric. They just feel better themselves. That's a personal decision. That's totally cool if somebody wants to do that, or if they don't. They want to stay natural, then fucking stay natural. Do you. Make your own decisions. But it's just kind of crappy that men get shit on when they want, and the things that men are looking to do to enhance their bodies and appearance, they have to put work in for. I guess you can get implants, I have shitty calves. I could get a calf implant, but at 57 years old, I'm not getting a calf implant. But if my calves sucked, if I was not 57, but 27, and I was competing and I wanted to be a pro, I might consider it then. But there's just not a lot of male surgeries like for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Not like there is for women. We have to put in the actual work to get our bodies to change. So then he tells me a little bit more about the one time that he did do it and little blood pressure increase. And of course, Cialis is great for controlling the blood pressure in that case. And then he asked me about test and DECA, which I had mentioned, DECA for some size would be a little bit better. Doing increasing your test and doing a smaller, maybe 300 grams a week of the DECA. And so I did mention to him this is funny. You were questioning me on increasing the test, because he gives me this whole thing about what happened the last time. I said, and you want to do Tren? You messaged me about Tren? Do you know how ridiculous that is? I'm telling you to do something that's not as strong. And you're like pushing back against me a little bit. But the first question to me was about Tren, which I'm trying to talk you out of. And this is so funny. Yeah. He basically said he's going on vacation in August. He wants to look good. But then he said, I didn't think that through. And he did say this. This is really nice. I also know that you always look out for me and do what's best for me. And I do appreciate you. Because that's it. Like, I could have just given him dosages for Tren. This is what you would take. This is the amount. This is what you would do. But I'm not going to tell somebody to never take Tren. But I am going to tell somebody that you don't start out that way. And that gets asked of a lot of us that give that kind of advice on cycles. It is asked a lot by newbies. Like, newbies got no business being on Tren at all. Period. There's just no good reason. Do a basic test cycle. If you struggle a little bit, being undersized like he is, then at some point down the road, you might want to add a little DECA or add a little D-ball. If you're bigger, you want to cut a little bit. You might add a little Anavar in, get some of that hardness. It just depends. These aren't magic. You do have to put in the work. And they know that. They know that I'm going to ask them about the work, what work they're doing, because I'll have people that'll ask me about cycles, and then they're telling me they don't have much time to work out, and they're only getting to the gym twice a week. Well, just stick to your TRT, bro. The time for you is not now. When you have more time and you can pay more attention to getting to the gym on a regular basis, maybe minimum of 4 to 5 times a week, and you want to do a cycle, well, then do a cycle then. But now's not your time to do it because you're not putting enough effort in that it's worth even doing or, making the sacrifice money-wise or, again, we want to do this shit as safe as possible. It's just not worth it. Just stick with the TRT. You'll get enough benefit out of the TRT to be in good shape. Not big, not huge. And again, everybody's different and different with different doses anyways. So that's kind of the key or the focus. But it is important to me. The individual is important to me. And that's why my client base is what it is and why we do what we do. because that's just not available. You know, a doctor cannot talk to a guy like this about a cycle. That's just not what they do. They don't do cycles. They don't prescribe them. So they can't really talk to him about that. And a lot of times, you know, especially guys who do TRT and get comfortable with it, at some point they seem to ask about, you know, what if I did a little more? And if they can't get it from a doctor, they're getting it from somewhere else. And the somewhere else is, those people don't care. They just care about selling people something. And they don't even care if what they're selling them is any good or not, or a legit product. But they sure don't care about the results a person gets. You know, I'm constantly, you know, giving someone advice and then immediately keep me updated, you know, with doing the Ozempic. I can't help you if you're not keeping me updated. You know, one of my clients is, you know, talking to me. He's got another vial of semaglutide for his mom. How'd she do? She did 6.2 pounds in 3 weeks, 2 pounds a week. Like, dude, that's perfect. Keep me updated. And maybe we won't even go up the dose. You know, we don't, because we don't need to. And our first step doesn't have to always be upping the dose with those. It can maybe be doing the same dose, but doing it a little sooner. Instead of doing it every 7 days, do it every 6 days or every 5 days. That's another way to increase it without increasing it, so to speak. And just kind of keeping things that in a controlled area. Because somebody else I also talked to, you know, had lost 30 some pounds, and really they should have been in about the 20-pound area. So I backed them off a little bit. And that's because they were doing it with someone else. I was like, look, man, you're going to lose it too fast. And that's not a good thing. You're not going to feel good. You're not going to be happy with the results of doing it this fast. And I know you would like all the weight gone overnight. Who the fuck wouldn't? And you're seeing results, so you get excited and you just want more of it. But then it's totally, you're going to be up to doses. If you're dropping it too fast, then you're probably not eating at all. Because these are strong appetite suppressants. And that's the whole fucking point, that it's a strong appetite suppressant, but we don't want it shutting your appetite completely off. That was not the goal with these. And I don't know how many people I come across that have been, you know, maybe on it and then their insurance kicked them off or whatever, that come to me and I find out, you know, their doctor's giving them no fucking information on the food they should be eating and what they should be doing as far as exercise. It's really bad. And it's a shame because we have this great tool here that people aren't being told how to use properly. And then when they aren't told how to use it properly, that's when we can get situations where, you know, something negative happens and then people are blaming the drug when it's not the drug. They're just taking too high a dose of it or some other part of that. And that's super important. So I did want to use that to kind of slide into this Dr. Lane Norton video. And I really like him. I've liked him for a long time now. And he does about an 8-9 minute video here on big food hacking Ozempic. And I don't know how much of a thing this really is, but I'm going to have him explain it and I'll have it stopped. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but probably about half of it. But I'm going to jump in a couple places and throw my 2 cents in here. Mostly, I think he's on the right track as far as that goes. But there are a couple of additions I think I can make to kind of bring it all home to somebody.
And so you know what time it is. It's time for What the Fitness. But first, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Oh, the algorithm. I got sent this reel. I don't know who the individual is who made this video, and I don't know how much of it is even true, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because I think it's a good conversation to have, and you might be a little bit surprised at my take.
Big Food just found a way to hack Ozempic, and they're doing it in secret. The story is actually crazy.
If it's in secret, how did you find out?
Okay, so there's a food laboratory in Northern California called MAHA that is, quote unquote, creating the future of food. It's run by this guy named Justin Shimmick, PhD, so you know he is a smart guy.
Not always. I've met some PhDs who couldn't logic their way out of a paper bag, but I'm sure this guy is a smart guy.
And he has monetized his intelligence quite well. It says for nearly
Why does he say that like it's a bad thing? I monetize my intelligence as much as there is.
50 years, Matson has conceptualized, developed, branded, and scaled hundreds of product lines, and in the process created billions of dollars in revenue for clients. And right now, their clients, Big Food, is asking them to do experiments that will reformulate ingredients so that their food can bypass the effects of Ozempic, Wegovy, and other GLP-1 weight loss drugs. Because from a financial perspective, people on these weight loss drugs are buying less food. Walmart CEO John Fernand recently told Bloomberg News that the company is seeing signs that people taking GLP-1 agonist appetite suppressant medications are buying, quote, less units, slightly less calories, which equals less profit. New York Times has reported that sales are down in sweet baked goods and snacks, and the industry is weathering a downturn.
I always love the conspiracy music. You said they were doing this in secret. Doing an interview for the New York Times isn't exactly secret, but I digress.
They're trying to make the food more addictive, even more addictive than they already are, because we know that food is already pretty addictive.
That's all I need to hear. We'll go ahead and comment about it. This would not surprise me one bit. Quite frankly, I'm not sure what the answer is. Because if you are a publicly traded company and you are the executive of a publicly traded company, you have a duty to your shareholders to produce profits. What are you going to do if profits are starting to decrease? You are going to look for a way to increase them. And if part of the reason they are decreasing is because people are eating less of your product, you're going to try to find a way to get people to eat more of your product. That's not necessarily a evil, how do we make people sick sort of thing. It's just a reality of life. People have to make money. We can live in a theoretical utopia where everybody has the same things and there is no evil capitalism. I say that with air quotes, evil. There is no evil capitalism and we don't have to worry about these things. But that place is never going to exist because you cannot deny the reality of human nature, which is there will always be some people who want to make their money. And to do so, they have to increase profits. I own a company. I'm trying to increase profits. Now, thankfully, I own 100% of my company, BioLane. And so I can decide what lines I'm willing to cross or not cross, and nobody's going to fire me for doing so. But unfortunately, if you are the CEO of a publicly traded company and you have a crisis of conscience where you're like, wow, our food might be causing people to become obese, we're going to do things differently, and your stocks go down, your profits go down, you're going to get fired. And so they'll just replace you with somebody who is going to make more money. You guys can lament that all you want, but the reality is that many of you probably have stocks in these companies. Now, probably as part of mutual funds and one.
And I don't disagree with that part of it, but here's the thing. Then that means people are taking Ozempic wrong. If these food companies can actually change the formulation of ingredients to get you to eat more of it while you're on Ozempic, the whole problem is that you're eating it in the first place. Okay? Because if you're told about the correct way to take Ozempic, the first thing is you should be getting rid of the junk food. What did he say was down? You know, the snacks. The snacks. You shouldn't be having much of, if any of that at all. That should not be in a doctor's prescription for you. If he's prescribing the GLP-1, or if you're getting the GLP from someone else, and there's everybody and their brother wants to sell GLP-1s now, and you don't know what you're getting, and they sure the fuck don't know how to tell people to take it properly. Again, that's our people have success because we tell people that you have to make a life change. If you're not willing to make a life change, don't do it. If you're not willing to change the foods that you eat, don't take it. Now, I'm not telling people that they should eat things they don't like. I don't do food plans like that. Instead, I come up with a strategy for people, a framework of how to eat and, you know, what things they like that they can include in their meals. But the first thing people should get rid of, okay, is the added sugars in anything. Look and see if it has added sugars, and then get rid of the crappy snacks. Get rid of the fucking donuts. I'm not saying never have another donut again. Look, Dawn and I have dessert. We split dessert the other night at Bourbon and Bones. It was a little cheesecake. We shared it. But we also make adjustments when we know we're going to go out to eat that day. We also try to be very careful of if we have breakfast, what we have for breakfast, lunch, what we have for lunch, and that, you know, we're going out to dinner at 7 o'clock or 7:30 or whatever the fuck it is, and to make sure that we've allowed for that from a calorie perspective too, okay? And that we're really tight on doing the higher protein and getting our protein in and not overeating, you know, during the day, so that this little extra pleasure thing that we get, you know, works. You can do it. But we have the discipline to be able to do that. If you don't have the discipline, if that would fuck you up, guess what? Don't do it. If that's going to make you want to eat the whole pie, then don't have the first bite. That's why I don't take the first drink, because it'd make me have the second drink and the third drink, okay? I can't do it like other people. I can't do alcohol like other people, but I can do food, and I can be disciplined with food. And I can also not be disciplined with food. I have the ability to do both. I wasn't real disciplined for the most part. I did protein, but I added some things in when I was sick with the COVID and recovering from COVID after losing 32 pounds. What did I come on and tell people I was doing? You remember? Milkshakes, right? I was having Red Robin milkshakes. And sometimes 2 of those motherfuckers. Dude, I haven't, since I regained my weight and I stopped doing that. Do you know how many milkshakes I've had at Red Robin? 0. I've had 0. And that's okay. I enjoyed them for the moment, but that moment is past. And a lot of times, like I said, Donald and I will do something small. So we get a little taste of it. We're not denying ourselves and enjoying our, you know, our food. And, you know, we had steak and a baked potato, and the 2 of us together didn't finish the baked potato. Our main thing was our steak. I had a New York strip. She had a petite filet. That's what our meal out was. But if you're not going to have this problem, it doesn't matter what these companies do to try to get around Ozempic, because you shouldn't be eating that food. And that's the one thing I didn't really get throughout this video, him saying is, come on, dude, you know this. Why aren't you saying that? I think he had a different focus with the money and thing, which was all true. This is absolutely true. The job of the company is to get you to get more of their product. Okay? The goal of any company is to make money. The goal of that company, you know, of some companies and some of their products isn't to provide you with something that's healthy. Now, some companies promote healthy things and try to come up with healthy snacks. That's fine. That's a different area. Now, like Dawn and I, we like the Quest bars. I do like the David protein. I did a video on the David protein bars that are, I think, are absolutely excellent and probably the best bar that you can get right now as far as a protein bar. 28 grams of protein and 150 calories. That's almost 2 grams of protein for every 10 calories. And my usual marker is 1. If it's 1 to 10, 1 gram of protein for every 10 calories, that's a good product. Okay? And that is pretty close to what the Quest bars are. But this David one is almost 2. It's like 1.8 grams of protein for every 10. So just fantastic. It's just a fantastic, and it tastes good. So like those things, to me, those are kind of those are the protein that I need. But this one that we just got, this Quest, the strawberry shortcake one, they have a different strawberry one, or maybe it's a red, I don't know. But the strawberry shortcake one's got this covering on it too. Man, that is, it's really, honestly, it's like dessert. It is like dessert. But it is a real protein bar, and it is a good bar and made by a good company. So I will throw that out there. But is that better than the Whole Foods? No, absolutely not. Get what you can from the Whole Foods. And then what you can't get from the whole foods, you do need to supplement with, but that's still doesn't include the snacks. It doesn't include a donut or, being in those aisles that are not going to be good for you, or that we're talking about here that they're going to try to hack or for somehow make it so that because that's what people, and I will acknowledge this, people can do this, especially very heavy people can take these GLP-1s, not change their diet, meaning the foods that they're eating. And if this works as it should, as a strong appetite suppressant, they're going to be eating less of these junk foods that are very high in calories and sugar, and they're going to be eating less of them. And then they're going to be likely to lose weight, but they're still eating junk. And then when they stop taking the GLP-1 and they gain the weight back, what are they going to say? Well, that shit don't work. You didn't fucking do it right. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. It's a lifestyle and a lifestyle change that you have to make. And that's even if you don't do GLP-1s. Don't use that tool. If you're just doing fucking Weight Watchers or whatever, or the keto diet or paleo or whatever, all of those diets work. You know when they don't work? When you stop doing them. That's when they don't work. Or if you're not going to do the other things that you should do. Like the only reason to not adding exercises to these is because you can't. Now, I had somebody that had, certain difficulties physically, and they were heavily overweight. And I said, you know what? You need to, you're out here. You need to, they were at a campground, actually. They were at a campground during the summer. So I said, you know what? You need to walk down to that camper there and back. How far can you walk right now? How far would you could walk to that camper? But that's what you need to do. And you need to do that for a few days. And then hopefully by day 6, you can walk to the camper that's past that one and back. And you just start wherever you fucking start. That's just it. Okay. And now if somebody can't do that, they're totally incapable of doing anything at all. Almost not moving. That I get. And you can do it by just all food then. By reducing your food, you can lose weight. But at some point in there, they're going to have, when they've lost enough that they can maybe now start to move, then they need to be able to do that. They need to start that up as soon as possible. I'm not one of these people that say, well, lose the weight and then start the exercising. No, they both go together. Unless you are absolutely 100% physically limited. And even then, when you're physically limited, is there anything that I can come up with that you can do? I even came up with a machine because my dad has a walker and things he can't do and his foot being fucked up, that worked his arms and his legs, that he could push, that actually with his difficulties, he was still capable of doing. And it was a great machine because it still worked kind of his whole body. It got his whole body moving, more body movement when you're doing your upper and lower body at the same time. That's actually a good thing. You're going to burn more energy that way. If you're just sitting on a recumbent bike, just moving your legs, that doesn't take as much energy as this. Or doing these poles back and forth. That's more energy, right? So you start wherever you fucking start. But you do have to start. And with these, this is just, that's what I really wanted him to say, that this hack doesn't fucking matter. Because that's what I was looking for when I came across the video. Okay, what are we saying about this? And there's nothing he said was wrong, but there were things that he didn't say that I was hoping that he would say. And stuff that I know that he knows, because this dude's a very smart dude. So I'm not shitting on it at all. But you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. There is a proper way to eat. There is a certain amount of protein you should be targeting every day if you're on these GLP-1s. I realize most people don't want to count all calories and carbs and do all that. Like some people like, no, dude, you don't understand. They're not going to do it. You got to make this so that they can be successful. And that's why we focus on the protein first and just filling in. And then we can talk about when I do have a consultation with somebody. I do just a food consultation with somebody. I don't give them set meals to make up, but we just talk about, put it in the categories. Okay, what fruits do you like? Okay, but we want to keep it to the lower sugar fruits mostly as much as we can, you know. But even eating, you know, and I have those little cutie things. They're so fucking good. Okay, you're still better off eating one of those than you are junk food. You're still better off because it's going to be pretty hard to overeat these things. But again, lower sugar fruits, better. Which ones do you like? Okay, what green vegetables do you like? And hopefully you like more green type of vegetables than what I do. You know, include that. So we build it based on what they like. Eat the stuff you like. Eat the healthy stuff you like. But a lot of people aren't doing that. We come to find out, people are eating all these junk foods, and then when we start talking about real whole foods, they actually do have a good list of stuff that they like. They're just not eating it. They're not buying it or buying enough of it. Like, well, okay, that's the whole fucking problem. How about we change that? How about we buy that? That's going to be what works for you. You just can't expect this thing to just be magic and work. They do work. It's a tool, one of the tools. The other things are you. It's about you. It's about you making a change, you making a difference because what you want to be the best that you can be. So, very good video. I highly recommend following him if you don't now. But just keep that in mind with this, that it doesn't matter about what big food does. Don't participate. Just don't participate. Just say no. And that'll get it for you. Let's do this other one, last one. This is not related to health and stuff. This is just related to, and then there was the other one too. Do you have the other one?
Yeah, it's like a slideshow. I can click.
All right. Yeah, that one. Okay. Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm scrolling, and this was just earlier, scrolling, and I come across this NFL bombshell. Elon Musk says if the Pittsburgh Steelers don't partner with Tesla, he will ban Steeler players and the entire city of Pittsburgh from buying Tesla vehicles in the future. Details in the comments. Now, is there any plan? Is your first reaction to reading that? What's your first reaction?
It's fake.
Yeah, it has to be fake. Dude, that's not a thing. It's just not a thing. These are usually satirical websites that post this stuff, or they post it under satire. All they're trying to do is get clicks and get people to comment. And this one got a lot of people commenting. I don't know if it was 3,000, 9,000. That's a lot of comments. There was a lot of them. Yeah, I don't think I showed it, but I wish I had. But here's, and then Meta does this now on some posts where it tells you when there's a lot of comments what people are basically saying. Largely unfazed by Elon Musk's threat. Many expressing disinterest in the brand. Commenters note that Musk's statement may have been the wrong approach to the city like Pittsburgh, implying residents won't miss out on Teslas. How about, why aren't people saying this is fake? Because it is. It's not a thing. And then I did post the comment and didn't just scroll past. This post proves how stupid people are. You dumb motherfuckers will believe anything. And that's just the case. I just wish now this Pooja Rajput, he's not somebody, that I follow, not on my friends list. But I will say people on my friends list will post dumb shit like this. Or repost somebody else's shit like this. And it's designed to get people who don't like Elon Musk, because that's the thing right now. That's the controversy, that they know they're going to get clicks. This is total clickbait. To get clicks, to do for ads or whatever. I don't know all the benefits people get out of doing this, but they're not doing it just to fuck with people. They get a benefit out of it somehow. And what we all need to be doing is not participating, including me, even like with that post. But it's just like, it's just so tired to see it. And then there was another one that did come from a friend's page. This one, he posted this. Jeep is parting ways with Bruce Springsteen. You know, there's a Bruce Springsteen controversy now because he went over in Europe and was bad-mouthing the USA and President Trump, right? After his controversial comments on stage in Europe, the Jeep name stands for American unity, not divisiveness. It's time for Bruce to move on. Losing the contract will cost Springsteen $12 million a year. If you remember, it was just a few years ago that I think what this picture's from is from a ad that was done for the Super Bowl about 3 years ago. Okay. And I don't know if he had a $12 million year contract. That I could find no basis for that in my research that I did. But this is also bullshit. They're not parting ways with Bruce Springsteen. There's just like, there may or may not still be some type of partnership to begin with, but they're not nothing was announced by Jeep or anything. In fact, if you look in the corner of the picture, what does it say?
Satire?
Allied Satire. That's a website that made this. And they're just putting their logo on it, you know, to kind of, you know, like stamp it, right? That it's theirs, that they put this and made this up. But satire. But somebody posted this like it's a real thing because it's real cool for conservatives now to shit on Bruce Springsteen. I have seen Bruce Springsteen in concert because he was an icon when I was growing up and he was on my bucket list and I wanted to see him and I did. I also think he's a dick. Okay? Like, I would never go to a Bruce Springsteen concert again. Ever. I think he's, you know, it's kind of like De Niro. He's off like base ranting and raving. I mean, I love De Niro movies. Now, I still would see a De Niro movie. But their other stuff, I just think they're just yapping idiots and like, who the fuck cares? But the point is, these places put this stuff up and then to me, it makes conservatives look dumb. If you're a conservative and you post this, you look stupid. Because do you know how quick you can run this through AI now? You could just take the whole thing, take a snapshot of the whole thing and run it through AI. Now, is AI perfect? Nope. But you can get to the answer quicker and you could push it and you can fine tune it. When people saying, well, AI isn't accurate, it's because of the user. The user's not accurate. You know, you have to know how to push AI and know what AI's limits are as well. Because AI, they actually put limits on AI to not totally think for itself. They actually put limits and say, well, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to think in that direction, or I'm not allowed, you know, to make a post that's overly aggressive and, you know, could be deemed violent. You know, even though I would be capable of doing that, I'm not allowed to. The people who made me this program. And I've got that from working with AI, calling out bullshit. Like, because I know this isn't this true. Yes, that's true. I see your point. And you have to know how to work the AI. But something like this is pretty simple. And because the AI is going to search everything very quickly, all across the internet, from all potential sources. And you can even say that, all sources, not just posts. And sometimes it'll tell you, yes, this is appearing on Facebook or X post, and it's not true. And it'll point out what I just pointed out, which is, look, it's from a satire site. And sometimes you have to click on it to go to that, not your friend who posted it, but your friend reposted the whole thing. You have to click on the thing itself and then go to that like you were trying to click to get to somebody's page. Click on Allied there. So it will go right to that page, and it'll say it's satire in its, you know, description of what it is. So there you go. It's not just, you know, that's how you can get away with disinformation and lying. But again, it makes you look dumb if you repost this because we all want to, but it shows how, like, if it aligns with your political belief, you just want to believe it's true. You just want to believe it's true that Jeep is going to tell Bruce Springsteen to fuck off. Well, I don't like Bruce Springsteen, but I don't like people, reposting dumb shit that they don't need to be reposted. Like, we don't have to lie. That's the Democrat side that does that. We don't have to lie. So stop reposting this shit, my friends. If you're one of my friends, don't do this. If you're one of my friends, before you do this, before you click this, take 60 motherfucking seconds and run it through something and try to figure out if it's really true or not. Because you ought to this seems a little suspicious. And if this doesn't then your whole radar is off. You shouldn't trust yourself on anything because you're just not any good at figuring this shit out. You're just going to have to ask me, I guess. I don't know. But I can see this shit a mile away instantly. And I always tell, even if my friends, look, we're the same political belief, buddy, but this isn't true. We'd like it to be true, but it's not. What I just saw, the whole thing with the James Comey and Shell thing that's been a big thing this week with the 8647. And people are talking about the Diddy case. And it is a good question. Why is James Comey's daughter, who's a prosecutor, why is she not been fired by Trump? I don't understand that. But anyways, she is a prosecutor. She's part of the prosecutor team that is, the team that is prosecuting Diddy right now on trial. They just had a week of trial of P. Diddy, right? And people were posting on X saying, oh, his wife is a judge. Oh, his wife is a prosecutor. His daughter is a judge. Dude, it's literally 10 seconds. 10 seconds. What role does James Comey's wife or daughter have in the P. Diddy case? James Comey's wife has zero role. She's not a judge. She's not a prosecutor on the case. The daughter isn't a judge. Stop saying she's a judge. She's not a judge. She's a prosecutor. And even after people pointed out to this person, she's not a judge, she's a prosecutor, they still said, nope. I'm just going to, what? You're just going to disagree to disagree? I mean, it's just not true. It's a simple thing that some things are not a fucking debate. Okay? She doesn't have a robe on. She's not running any courtroom. She's not a judge on the Diddy case or any case because she's not a fucking judge. But that's just people posting just the dumbest. But I will say this. You do have the right to post incorrect shit. You do. And I also have the right to say you're a motherfucking idiot for doing so. So just stop it. Stop making yourself look dumb when you don't have to. Okay? I don't know everything, but you know what I am smart enough to do? Search for the right fucking answer. That's what you should do too. There you go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. God bless. Have a great week.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life.